Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General, and thank you for gathering here outdoors for this really important announcement. And I'm really excited, honored, very pleased that I'm joined today by my friend and former colleague in the California State Assembly Majority Leader Eloise Gomez-Reyes, who represents the San Bernardino area. And before I begin, I want to thank my team for leading the efforts we are here to announce. Minsu Lanjaru, Deputy Attorney General; Anna Kirsch, Deputy Attorney General; Jennifer Bonilla, Deputy Attorney General; Lillian Tabe, Deputy Attorney General; Marisa Hernandez Stern, Supervising Deputy Attorney General; Satoshi Yanai, Senior Assistant Attorney General; and Matt Goldberg, Special Assistant Attorney General. We've got a great team that's been working hard on this issue, and excited that I can acknowledge them for their great work. And we are right across the street from an Amazon facility. Throughout the pandemic, at these facilities across the California, Amazon left its workers in the dark about the prevalence of COVID-19 in the workplace and failed to share critical and legally required information. As the company enjoyed booming and historic sales with its stock price doubling, Amazon failed to adequately notify warehouse workers and local health agencies of COVID-19 case numbers, often leaving them unable to effectively track the spread of the virus. Amazon's practices led to workers not knowing if they had been potentially exposed to 2, 20, or even 200 cases of COVID-19. This left many workers understandably terrified and powerless to make informed decisions to protect themselves and to protect their loved ones. That's coming to an end. Today, I am announcing that the California Department of Justice has secured a first-of-its-kind stipulated judgment requiring Amazon to end harmful labor practices that concealed COVID-19 case numbers from its workers. This judgment also requires Amazon to provide key information on workplace protections in line with California's right to know law. I'm grateful to Assembly Majority Leader Eloise Gomez-Reyes for her leadership in creating this law, AB 685, to protect California's essential workers who have been on our front lines throughout this pandemic. One of the best tools for limiting exposure and minimizing the spread of the coronavirus is to gather thorough and accurate data. That's why California law requires employers to notify their workers of potential workplace COVID-19 exposure and to report COVID-19 cases during outbreaks to local health agencies. No corporation is too big to follow the law. All must comply with California's important laws. Today's judgment, which is subject to court approval, requires Amazon to update its COVID-19 notification policies in line with the law and take specific actions to protect workers. Those actions include the following. 1, issuing timely exposure notifications to its tens of thousands of warehouse workers within 1 day, and sharing the exact number of new COVID-19 cases in the workplace. 2, ending its practice of inadequate notifications that failed to inform workers of the company's disinfection and safety plan and employees' COVID-19 related rights. 3, notifying local health agencies of COVID-19 cases within 48 hours so they can intervene in potential workplace outbreaks. Submitting to monitoring by my office regarding the company's COVID-19 notifications, and paying $500,000 to the state to support the enforcement of our consumer protection laws. This is a huge win for the safety and health of Amazon's tens of thousands of warehouse workers, their families, and our communities throughout this state. Our essential workers have gone above and beyond during this pandemic, putting their lives on the line time and time again to ensure our families have the essential goods we need. As our nation continues to fight this virus, it is absolutely critical that all businesses do their part to keep our essential workers safe, especially with the holiday season right around the corner, where warehouses, stores, and malls will be packed with people and with goods. In the United States, we all play by the same rules. Whether you're a small business or a global e-commerce giant, in California, you don't get to choose which laws you want to follow, especially when it comes to COVID-19, a matter of life and death. This judgment sends a clear message that businesses must comply with this important law. It helps protect all of us. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Assembly Majority Leader Eloise Gomez-Reyes.
Thank you so much, my dear friend and former colleague, our California State Attorney General Rob Bonta. During the height of COVID-19, when we knew how contagious this was, we were seeing many of our essential workers contracting this disease at work and taking it home to their families. We read of many places of work where numbers of employees from the same company were exhibiting symptoms, testing positive for COVID, being hospitalized, and dying. We witnessed deadly outbreaks at job sites. Workers who were exposed to COVID-19 at work were often not advised that they had been exposed to somebody who had tested positive for COVID-19. When we asked why, we realized that although we thought there was a moral obligation, although we expected employers to do the right thing and to notify their employees when they had been exposed to someone who had tested positive and to advise them of the potential dangers, the truth was there was no specific law that required this. There was no obligation in the books that required an employer to notify their employees that they had been exposed to somebody who had tested positive for COVID-19. As a consequence, we introduced AB 685, which was passed by both houses and signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom on September 17, 2020. AB 685 requires employers to notify an employee if they've been exposed to somebody who tested positive for COVID-19 at work. It also required a sanitation plan if the employee was going to be required to come back to work. And if there was an outbreak of 3 or more employees who tested positive, there was a requirement that they must notify the Department of Public Health. Many of the employers that we come in contact with, in fact, changed their protocols and immediately notified the employees when they had been exposed to somebody who had tested positive. Many employers put together their sanitation plans after somebody had tested positive and before they asked the employees to come back to work. Many employers also submitted the information of the outbreaks to the Department of Public Health. But as we know, some of the employers did not do this. They found loopholes and they either failed or chose not to comply with the law. I want you to know how grateful I am to our Attorney General Rob Bonta for his commitment to the workers of California. I am grateful that through his office, compliance is being enforced. Today's settlement sends a message to California employers who fail or refuse to comply with the law. Today's settlement also sends a clear message to California workers that we will do what we can and what we must do to keep them safe at work. I'm ever so grateful that now we have an enforcer, someone who is looking out to ensure that the law is upheld. Our Attorney General is hard at work ensuring the safety of our families as we work to defeat this pandemic. He is here and he is watching, and I am ever so grateful on behalf of my constituents and all workers in California. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the teamwork that's on display here with the legislature and the Department of Justice, making sure that we're protecting our workers, our public health, making sure we're protecting businesses that are following the law so that they are not undercut by those who are not. And as we enter the holiday season, as we continue to remain in an international pandemic, it's important that we do right by our workers, and that means following the law here, notifying our workers, and when appropriate, notifying our local public health agencies. So with that, I can open it up to any questions that you may have. If you want to ask the question of me, perfect. If you want to ask the question of our majority leader, please specify. Hi. This is a done deal. So we filed a complaint with a stipulated judgment today in Sacramento Superior Court. We had an ongoing investigation, and we got to a final terms of the stipulated judgment recently and filed it with the court today. So it's a done deal. The key focus here is the health and safety of our workers, the practices that are enshrined and embodied in AB 685 to make sure that workers are being notified when they're exposed, to make sure that there's a sanitation plan, to make sure that the local health agencies are notified so they can intervene as appropriate, and to put some meat and some specificity into AB 685. This is the first of its kind in the nation, stipulated judgment. We think it's very important. It's against and relates to one of the biggest businesses in the world with over 100 fulfillment facilities and centers in California, tens of thousands of workers employed. So this is massive in terms of its impact on workers who had been left in the dark up to now. The focus is really on the change practice going forward. Amazon has a lot of money. We know that. I mean, you might make the same point if they had to pay $100 million because they have so much money. The importance is we have some investment into the consumer protection actions going forward for our office, for local enforcement agencies as well, but most importantly is the change in practice and the message that this sends to all businesses throughout the state of California. This is not a voluntary compliance concept. This is the law of the state of California. You must do this to do right by your workers, to comply with the law, and to do right by our collective commitment to public health. Thank you. Any other questions? You want to speak in Spanish? Yeah.
Soy la líder de la mayoría de la Asamblea, Eloís Gómez Reyes, y aquí estoy con el fiscal del Estado de California, Rob Bonta, para anunciar que por fin se ha hecho un arreglo con Amazon, y ahora van a tener que notificar a los trabajadores cuando sean expuestos a COVID-19. También para poder regresar a los trabajadores al trabajo tienen que tener un plan para desinfectar, y finalmente también tienen que incluir notificación al Departamento de Salud Público cuando hay 3 o más trabajadores que han sido expuestos a COVID-19.
Amazon's the first public case that we're announcing. We can't comment on any ongoing or potential investigations. I will say that AB 685 is a very important law, and we are here to enforce it against any business that is violating it. And so it's important that we announce this stipulated judgment with respect to Amazon today so that the message is clear to all businesses throughout the state of California, and we will continue to be active in this space because our workers and our public health deserve it. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thanks to all. Oh, y'all can do better than that. Good morning. Our executive budget recommendation, in spite of the last